Hello and welcome to Kellyapy, a self-help podcast. Well, we have got a wonderful podcast in store for you today. Today we're going to be talking about setting boundaries. So many people struggle with this concept. And when I first entered in recovery, I had no idea what a boundary was. I thought it was a sports term, to be honest, and that's not a lie. I didn't realize the importance of establishing boundaries in my day-to-day life. I just chose to play the victim and let people walk all over me. So in recovery, I was taught that you teach people how to treat you. So I figured that I would bring the person who introduced me to the wonderful world of boundaries to talk about it today, my friend Patsy Pease. Now, I am so thrilled that Patsy has taken the time to talk about the importance of establishing and maintaining healthy boundaries. Now, many of you may remember Patsy from her legendary role on Days of Our Lives as Kimberly Brady, who ironically played a therapist. So Patsy, you can honestly say I'm not a therapist, but I played one on TV.
I can. Yes, I can.
She really should have been a therapist though, because I've gotten so much self-help from her through the years, and I know that you will as well. And she's going to be a recurring guest on my show many times because she's got so much wisdom to share. So please welcome to the show, Patsy Pease. Yay, applause, applause.
Oh, thank you, Kelly. God, it is so good to be here. I love talking to you in any format.
Yes, this is going to be awesome because I'm super excited about this topic today, Patsy, about boundaries. And it kind of came up out of for us. We were just talking over the weekend about, I was having some problem setting some boundaries, and it came up how hard it is for us to set boundaries. So to start this off, Patsy, why don't you just first explain to our listeners so they don't think it's a sports terminology like I do. what a healthy boundary, what it means to set healthy boundaries.
Well, I'm still a work in progress. I'm still working on this myself, but I have a goal that I aspire to. And I think for me, it's knowing where I end and you begin and creating a distinctive space between us where there's a potential for healthy balance and stability. But we have to be two whole, complete people, not two halvies trying to be a wholly. And I looked up the definition of boundary in Webster's is a line that marks the limit of an area. It's a dividing line. And, and ironically, the division is what creates our unity, or a healthy unity.
Yes.
Not, because you can bond and unite wound to wound, which is the way I did for years. Well, victim-esque behavior, and I'd find other victims and I'd bond wound to wound. And the problem with that is when one of us started getting better, the other one started trying to drag the one who's getting better back down because they're losing them in the relationship. I've seen a lot of relationships outgrow each other because one starts getting better. And they would be able to grow together if they hadn't bonded wound to wound in an unhealthy way. Wow. So it's two healthy people creating a space, a healthy space between you, a designated space that's specifically for balance and stability.
That's so interesting. I've never heard it put that way, but I love that.
Because I just made that up.
This is hot off the presses, people. Hot off the presses.
It is hot.
And it's kind of like the thinking of water seeks its own level. I've heard it put, how, like you said, one person gets better, the other one doesn't. They're going to try and pull you back down to that level. It's like the crabs. Have you ever heard about like the crabs that try to, if you put a bunch of crabs in a bucket and one tries to climb out, all the others are going to go
They'll try to drag them back down. Yeah. And this will tell you when that happens, it's just, a symptom of the illness in the relationship. The relationship had an unhealthy bond in the very beginning. There were no boundaries. You kind of seeped in and out of each other, and it was real mushy. And so you're totally dependent on each other for your own happiness. And if the other one starts to go a little bit further away, you freak out, and all of a sudden you're unstable.
Yes.
Because your whole stability was dependent on leaning into and absorbing that other person. And so there is no space between you.
And you become whole when you really, that's setting boundaries is you're making yourself whole. You're cutting that tie that you talk about.
Well, you've got to do two things that I've found, and I've been trying to do this, working on this, actively working mindfully on this for the last 30 years, because boundaries were so foreign to me. I didn't come from a place where I didn't know what they were. So in my studies and the experiments that I've tried how to create healthy boundaries, there were two things I had to come to terms with: authenticity and my values. And I have to ask myself, because see, I can't set a boundary if I don't know what I value. Do I value respect? Okay, well, if then someone's disrespectful, that goes a boundary. It can be an internal boundary. Well, just note to self, don't hang around this person anymore. Or I don't like your tone. Okay, that's a boundary. But I have to know that respect is something I really value. Privacy. Is that something I value? Amiable relationships, community. Do I value that? Do I value trust? Do I value freedom? Do I value integrity? Okay, now I have to know, are those things I value? And then I have to ask myself, this is where the brutal honesty, the authentic self comes in, is very important. If I'm going around saying, those are the things I value. Let's say I value trust. I'm saying, I value trust. You've got to be a trustworthy person if you're going to be hanging out with me. However, if what I say and what I do are two different things, and I go around lying to people, and I'm not dependable, my word means nothing. If that's what my actions are, but I'm saying I value trust, and there's not a congruency between what I say and what I do, that means I'm violating my own boundary.
Yeah.
And when I violate my boundaries, guess what? Other people do the same. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you taught me that to set a boundary, you don't have to be mean about it. It's say what you mean what you say, but don't be mean about it. This is where I draw the line at whatever, you are threatening to, with my authenticity or my purpose that I'm setting the boundary for. So
yeah, and the more honest you are about what you value, you feel good, because when I say to you, I value respect, and I know that I treat people with the utmost respect, whether they deserve it or not, is just something that I value. So I treat you like that until you prove otherwise. You're innocent until proven guilty. If I really show respect, first, I just assume that you deserve it, and that's the way I treat people. So I know that I'm authentic with that value. I'm telling the truth. If I know this, it's really easy for me to set a boundary and say, that's not very respectful.
Yeah.
It won't come out harsh, because I'm sure of it. I live it.
Yeah.
It's honest.
And it really is also about when you set the boundary, because a lot of people in recovery, let's just say, are very big people pleasers, and that's where boundaries really come to play, because we're such people pleasers. At least I can speak for myself, and I know I've spoken to you about this, that I'm willing to put up with whatever doesn't hurt the other person's feelings, as long as they're happy, I'm okay. And having to learn and then I would develop this huge resentment at them in the meantime, for me not being able to set a boundary with them. And I actually would get resentful at the fact that I couldn't set a boundary with this person. So once I learned to take responsibility for myself and set a boundary, that took away the people pleasing and gained the respect, like you said, you talk about, for them and for me.
You know, Kelly, how we talk to ourselves is how we're going to talk to other people. If I'm not respecting myself and I'm talking down to myself, if I'm minimizing myself, if I'm belittling myself, then I'm going to allow other people to do that too. So it all starts with me and my relationship with myself. The first boundary has to be with me. How do I set boundaries for myself so that I can reflect my values more honestly? How do I do that? And if I really approve of myself, if I like who I am, if I'm comfortable in my own skin, I don't need people's approval so much. It's not that I go out of my way to get them to disapprove or anything. It's just I already approve of myself. If you like me too, well, that's good. That's really nice. Thank you. But I don't depend on it. If you don't like me, it's not going to ruin my day because I already like me.
Yeah, and it has to start with you, like you said. It really does have to start with you. How can anybody else like you if you don't even like yourself? You know.
I teach by example, and I've learned by example. So if I'm exemplifying behavior of really being mean to myself, or like all the time, like cutting myself down and doing things that are harmful to myself, that's sending out a message to other people. I don't like myself very much, so you shouldn't either.
Yeah.
It starts with me. You teach people how to treat you, and you teach them by how you treat yourself first, because they're just going to fall in line.
Yeah. I was explaining.
So I'm responsible. It always gets back to me. I'm never the victim of anything.
Yeah. I
I
remember being told there's no victims, only volunteers.
Yep. Yeah. Only volunteers. There you go. And the thing about the boundaries about whether, you know, the people pleasing and stuff. I mean, that's when Melody Beatty comes in with these great books like Codependent No More, because the codependency starts because I don't know where I begin and I don't know where I end. It's all up to you. How unfair is that for me to put that pressure on you to make me whole? And then I have the nerve to resent you when you don't come through. Isn't that something?
And they're not mind readers. I have to tell my people I work with all the time, people aren't mind readers. You need to tell them. Don't just assume they know. Well, they should know. They should know this. Well, did you tell them? No. Well, you didn't tell them. You didn't set your boundary. They're not mind readers.
And you know, I'll give you an example of how I'm still struggling. Like sometimes I'm afraid that, you know, I sound like a know-it-all because of the way I'm talking to myself. Is you're not a know-it-all, you know, Pat. You're still struggling with this. There's this little voice echoing. So let me share this little story, and you've heard it. During this COVID-19, establishing boundaries with other people wearing masks and staying 6 feet, you know, a distance, because it does affect our health and our emotional health and, you know, and our physical health. It affects all of that. So it's necessary. But to the extent that I take it, I went into a dentist office, an oral surgeon of all places, and one of the assistants who was working with me was not wearing a mask and was not wearing gloves. And I just about went through the roof. And I'll tell you why. I have an immune-compromised son at home. He's got diabetes type 1 and he's got lung disease. So Mother Bear comes out and I'm ready to rip this woman a new orifice somewhere on her body. And so that told me I'm not going to be able to set this boundary until I calm down and see what's going on within me, because it's going to come out really hostile and defeat the whole purpose. So that's what I mean. I have to take an inner check and go, you know, if I just built up a lot of anxiety taking care of an immune-compromised son, and now I found this one excuse to rip it into this woman and she gets the brunt of it, is that what's going on? Because that's not serving me. It wouldn't serve me to do that. So I have to ask myself, what do you want out of this situation? Well, I want her to put her mask on and respect my health. This is a healthcare provider. She should, you know, like the mind reader, she should know to respect my health. However, if I want to walk out of this office feeling calm, stable, and healthy, I work backwards from that and say, what do I have to do now in this moment to create calm, healthy, and stable walking out of this office? And so I took a deep breath and I said, ma'am, I have an immune compromised son at home, and I'd really appreciate it if you respected our health. This is your healthcare provider, and I expect it here. So would you please do so and act accordingly? Just like that.
Yeah.
And that's so different from what I wanted to do, which was scream, rant, and rave, and kick things around. I like throwing things. That's always effective.
You know, for example A was the healthy example, and example B would be, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah, what the hell? Yeah, and it's like, what's wrong with you? Are you a moron? How do they hire morons in an oral surgeon's office? How did you even get this job? Are you sleeping with somebody? Yeah. Oh yeah, I will go there. I will get down and dirty. I will get in the mud, and we will have a mud slam. So,
yes. And it ends with the police.
I know that. and then they call the cops in, and it's always going to end up with police interference. So, and I know that about myself, and I laugh about it because, you know, I used to go, oh God, you're a really scary person. But the fact is, I don't think I'm alone in that kind of hyper reaction, especially because we're all afraid. We're all afraid of this really deadly virus, and that's real. And so when you go into a healthcare provider's office, that of all places, I can understand the grocery store. There's still some jerks in there who are walking around on masks. Yeah. And if you're one of those jerks, I'm not apologizing. You're still a jerk. If you're walking around without a mask on, you are. So put your damn mask on, please, and your gloves. So there are boundaries that are going around in our society. We have a societal boundary that we're all learning how to establish, how to reinforce, and that can be problematic. I've seen fights break out in stores.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not the only one who has problems with establishing boundaries.
You know what it is too, Patsy? Well, I found for myself, and I think you just talked about it, it's uncomfortable to set down a boundary. It feels, if you're not used to doing it, it feels really uncomfortable. Because you're not sure how the other person's going to react, and you're worried, you know, at least I am. It's like, oh, what if they don't like me? But, you know, I need to set down this boundary for, like my son. I need to, like, I went into Subway and the guy didn't, you know, sitting there making my sub. I had to say, excuse me, could you put your mask on so I don't die of COVID for my, you know, turkey sub that you're making me? You know,
and the truth is, you shouldn't have to ask, especially in the environment when somebody's handling your teeth, your mouth, which is an entrance for the virus, and a food establishment. You'd think, but here's the thing: if I worry less about how they're going to react and worry more how I'm going to feel walking out of that place, because the interaction is not that long. What I've got to live with is me hours and hours and hours later. So I have to worry more about, wait a minute, what do I have to do right now to take care of myself that I don't walk out of here feeling bad about myself? Who cares what they think? Yeah. I really, at this point, I don't give a damn what anybody thinks. But I do care because I have to lay my head on the pillow at night and be able to go to sleep with my thoughts. May they be serene. May they be happy. May they feel proud of the way I acted. If I stood up for myself, did I do it with dignity? Did I do it with respect? Did I do it with integrity?
Yeah.
And because you can stand up for yourself and do it in a way without screaming, without throwing things, which were my favorites in the past. They never made me feel good.
Yeah.
So what do I have to do differently to create that, yes, I took care of myself. I stood up. Yes.
And that's establishing boundaries with people that we don't know. It gets a lot more complicated, like you said, when there's the family,
it does.
Dynamic. I'm sorry. I was explaining to a girl last night who's trying to learn how to set boundaries. And she's new in recovery, and she was starting to set down boundaries with her family. And I said, and they didn't take it well. And I said, they're not going to take it well, because you know what? Your family has fit together like a perfect little puzzle. Everybody knows their little place and how they fit in this family dynamic. And you're starting to change the puzzle piece. And they don't know how to respond to you changing the puzzle piece. Suddenly it's like, what's this? She's standing up for herself. Who does she think she is? You know? And it feels super uncomfortable when you do it. And the people don't expect the people to take it well the first few times you do it, right, Pats?
Well, the only people that are going to get really upset when you set a reasonable boundary are the ones that got mileage out of you not having boundaries.
Yes, yes.
And if somebody does if you set a respectful, reasonable boundary with someone and they get upset, well, flash news, they're the ones who are getting mileage out of you not having boundaries.
Yes.
Is that what you want in your life? Exactly. So either the relationship grows and changes, or it doesn't. And that's the reality of life. Sometimes we don't want to face this change because that's scary. But if you have to ask yourself, weigh out which is worse. You know, keep going the way you've been going. Keep doing what you're doing. You keep getting what you're getting.
Yep.
Is that what you want? And sometimes I have to ask myself a simple question if dealing with, family and setting a boundary. Pat, what is it that you want? What is it? Be honest. Be authentic. What kind of relationship do you want? Do you want the games and the manipulation and the control and the disrespect? Do you want that still? If it is, don't say anything. If that's honestly what I want, don't say anything. However, if that bothers you, then you're going to have to get the calmness to say something in a nice way. And if you say something in a nice way and somebody still goes off, that's on them. That's not your stuff. That's definitely on them.
Yeah.
And let them have it.
Taught by you to be persistent and consistent when you're laying down boundaries. It's not, you can't just lay it down one time. Go ahead.
No, there's a repetition. Well, it's just like, think about the ways that we had to change in our recovery to constantly say over and over and over again, okay, first things first, one day at a time. We had to mantra that, and the repetition, well, ask any teacher, repetition is one of the ways and how we learn. It's just, we're going to learn a new behavior. Well, it's going to have to be repeated. You're not going to say it one time. You don't show me how to, build an HVAC machine one time and I've got it.
Yeah. It's
going to take a lot of repetition. And changing a horse running 180 miles an hour midstream, it was like trying to turn the Titanic away from the iceberg. You're going to hit if you keep going this way with a family member, whether it's dysfunctional. You're going to hit something. But in order to avoid it, you have to really turn that sucker around, and it's going to take effort.
Yeah.
And there's a mental laziness that happens with a lot of us. We just get tired and give up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it
means nothing.
But you're right, Kelly. It has to be repetition. I have to do repetition with myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the it's like working with a toddler. If you were trying to teach a toddler how to not, how to behave, and you say, no, you can't do that, and then they do that, and you don't give them any consequences, then guess what? Your words are
nothing.
Nothing. Like, wow.
And they're like, oh, that's a really good, now I'm glad you brought the toddler, because here's the thing that I learned early in recovery about when I first learned that, I had the right to set a boundary. Oh, well, right. Oh man, here we go. Well, it's like, 2-year-olds are first learning that you're not an extension of them.
Yeah.
And they're not an extension of you. They're learning they have their own independent little separate self. And so they go through the no stage.
Mm-hmm.
And everything comes out really loud and emotional. No. And that's necessary to break a pattern of being totally dependent upon the mother. It's totally natural to break away into establishing a separate sense of self. You have to go through the no stage. So when I first started creating boundaries, they all came out too loud and too emotional. It was like a 2-year-old. It was, no, you're not. I'm a woman of recovery now. You don't treat me like that. So don't be surprised if some of the initial practicing of setting a boundary comes out way over the top. You're new at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're learning the word no.
Which you taught me is a sentence.
Yes, it's a complete sentence. I learned that in al-anon because I was having so much trouble with codependency of kind of merging into other people and then not understanding why relationships weren't working. And somebody told me, oh, I had a sponsor that once talked. She says, Pat, stop being el-explaino. No, it's a complete sentence, honey. She said, keep it simple. Say what you mean what you say. Just don't say it mean. But for God's sakes, you don't owe people, a resume of explanations. You can just say, no, I can't do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's that simple. And two, it's like the more you set boundaries, the safer people are going to feel around you, because they're going to know that what you say is, you mean what you say, that they know how to react around you and what's expected.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you know people who you don't have to mind read them, they're pretty clear about what they are thinking and what they want and they need when they're with you, even to the point where you kind of go, whoa, that was a little on the truth head. Oh my God. Even, that's still better than, I wonder what they're thinking right now. Should I do this or should I do that? I don't know. I'm so confused. I don't know where I stand with this person. I don't know where I stand. Now think about how uncomfortable that is. I would rather have somebody who's like a boundary queen. Like, this is my hula hoop. You don't jump inside my hula hoop. Okay? This is my space. These 3 feet either all around me, that's my hula hoop. And don't jump inside my hula hoop or I'll be down your Kool-Aid.
And you don't want that.
I know. And best we know, you do not want that. So, but, and usually I thought those people were harsh. But now I feel so comfortable when I'm around somebody who I know exactly where I stand with them, and I know where not to step.
Yeah. It's the best thing you can do. It's the healthiest thing you could do for yourself and for the other people. It takes all the guessing out, like you said.
Yes, because the guesswork can drive you crazy. And some people like to manipulate and control by saying this certain kind of mysteriousness around them. Like, you'll never know what I like or I don't like. I'm going to switch it up. Every time you try something, a new behavior, I'm going to react differently every time. So you never know what's going on with me. Well, that's manipulation.
Yeah.
And those guessing games are exhausting.
Yeah, exactly. And then the manipulation, that's where you take care of yourself. It's like, I'm not going to allow myself to be manipulated and controlled by
exactly.
You.
Well, when one of the tennis players, when two people are playing tennis on a tennis court, and one of the players walks off the court, there's game over. Yeah. Not unless somebody likes a backboard, but because it really does take two of you to play. And if you walk off or just, whether it's physical or emotionally, just distance yourself from the game, there is no game.
Yeah. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to.
No. No. You can decline the invitation. And remember, no is a complete sentence. It can be one that you can RSVP. I RSVP, period.
All right, Pat. You know what? Guess what? We have come to the end of our time here. It's hard to believe because
Kelly,
I could talk about this forever with you, and I'm
you're
so excited
so wonderful doing this.
Well, I think it's really helpful to other. I've gotten so much help from you in the past, So it's really good to be able to expose you to other people and hopefully help change their lives, because you changed my life.
Well, and I say the same with you, because, you know, like I said, we sponsor each other, because there's been very many days when you've said something to me and it has turned my whole day around, Kelly. And that's the beauty of being in relationship to people who are striving for a similar goal. We have a single-mindedness of purpose that is similar, and it helps to be in conversation with you.
Patsy and I have been together for 20 years now.
Yeah, that's 20 years.
Working together on our recovery.
Working. Yeah, we are. And it's so healthy to surround yourself with people who have, you know, a common interest in being healthy.
Yeah. Pats, I want to end this with, there's two ways I'm going to have two final things I need to do. So I like to close with the guest giving a little message, because the point of this is to offer a message of hope to help and heal. So I want to have you give the last word. What's your message of hope to those struggling with setting healthy boundaries today?
Well, I think I always hesitate when I start off with, well, I think. The first thing that comes to mind is, if you decide that you want a better, healthier life, there's going to be work involved. The first thing that I did with boundaries was get a piece of paper and write down what my values are, and then write down truthfully what I'm doing in my life to honor those values. And
that's your boundary, you know,
because that's where your boundaries will come from. But you first, because, you know, instead of me just going off drawing a line in the sand willy-nilly, if I want to be really respectful and act from a place of integrity, know first what my values are. And it's good to give myself values. And it's really good to get authentic and say, truthfully, Pat, what are you doing to honor these values? And if there's some that I'm not honoring very well, now I'm aware of it, so I can change it. And when I change, people around me change.
And you don't have to be angry at them.
No, and I'll tell you, and I've thank God for you and countless people in recovery, because I still get triggered, but here's the difference. I know there's a different way.
Yeah.
I know there is. I'm not held hostage by my own negative behavior anymore.
So listen, I'm gonna end with this. We were talking about Melody Beattie, and she literally wrote the book on boundaries. So I thought this would be perfect to end with her talk on. She has a book called The Language of Letting Go, which is a daily affirmation book. And January 2nd, she talks about healthy limits. So I'm going to leave our viewing audience with this last little meditation so that they can carry with them. Okay, so here we go. It's January 2nd, to The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beattie, Healthy Limits. Boundaries are vital to recovery. Having and setting healthy limits is connected to all phases of recovery. Growing in self-esteem, dealing with feelings, and learning to really love and value ourselves. Boundaries emerge from deep within. They are connected to letting go of guilt and shame, and to changing our belief about what we deserve. As our thinking about this becomes clearer, so will our boundaries. Boundaries are also connected to a higher timing than our own. We'll set a limit when we're ready and not a moment before. So will others. There's something magical about reaching that point of becoming ready to set a limit. We know we mean what we say. Others take us seriously too. Things change not because we're controlling others, but because we've changed. Today, I will trust that I will learn, grow, and set the limits I need to in my life at my own pace. This timing need only be right for me. Isn't that awesome?
Oh,
like what we just
beautiful. I love that, Kelly. Thank you so much. I needed to hear that.
Great. That was not me. It was Melody Beattie. I can't take credit for her.
But it just sounds good. Sounds so good coming from you.
All right, I'm gonna give my jazz voice for the close.
Oh boy. Oh gosh. I haven't heard this one in a long time. Yeah. You got that jazz voice.
Hi, thanks for joining into Kellyapy. Well,
I enjoy your program so much. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Patsy. And once again, a big thanks for every one of you for showing up today. If you enjoyed the podcast, subscribe to our podcast. We're going to do this every week for a half an hour. And if you want more positive messages, you can also check out my YouTube vlog, Monday Messages. Patsy is an avid fan of the Monday Messages. She's
Yay!
one of my cheerleaders.
Your head cheerleader.
So thanks again. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the next edition of Kellyapy. Bye, everybody.